I learned from talking to them that it's, in their environment, not okay to be seen as failing at something. Or not okay to admit weakness, which if you admit failure, you're admitting weakness, and therefore people will go to great lengths to deny, deflect, counter-accuse, whatever you might want to call it, in order to dodge blame and not admit that they've failed. Whereas in the world that Ben and I live in aviation, particularly military aviation, it's kind of an interesting world. It's very, very, I guess you should say, success-driven, but it is it's an endeavor in which you're not really allowed to be that bad at what you do. But once you're in the club, you're there, and if you're fully prepared to admit when you're doing something incorrectly, that not only is respected, but it's encouraged. So you go out, you have a poor flight, you come back, and you just knife yourself in the debrief. I mean, you just bleed in front of everybody. And that's encouraged, and it's looked up to. And that apparently is not the way it is in the corporate world, which I found interesting. So, failure. Good topic to discuss. And I also think it's a good topic to discuss because we're a success-driven society. There's a quote from Bill Gates. I mean, you can go on the internet and find a million quotes about success. He says, "It's fine to celebrate success, but it is more important to heed the lesson of failure." And then I found a quote from Charlie Sheen. "If at first you don't succeed, try again. But if at first you succeed, then what?" Which I just thought was funny, given that he's Charlie Sheen. I have no other reason for putting it in there. Okay, so I do have a pretty good reason. I can't digress that hard right now.
He's the reason that Charlie Sheen went on the rant, basically. But we'll get
basically, that's a whole other story. It's really yeah, that's why. I'm an F-18, bro. Yeah, all that. Okay, so we're a success-driven society, right? We don't like to talk about failure. It's uncomfortable. But I think if we understand failure, that's going to contribute to everybody's experience overall, which leads to an increased amount of wisdom. And that's never a bad thing, right? And you can define wisdom up there as the exercise of judgment acting on experience, okay? I don't think anybody's going to say that that's something that you can have too much of. A great book that I really love, and I've read it probably 3 or 4 times, and I'm a total history dork, and so if you're not, this might not be a good book for you. But if you have even a passing interest, this is a really good book. It's by a historian who won the Pulitzer Prize, Barbara Tuchman. She's dead now, but it's an incredible book, and she wrote a bunch of other ones that are really good too, but this is my favorite. It's called The March of Folly, and it talks about governmental failure, and it's pretty stunning. She looks at 4 historical examples. The Trojan War, for one. She then looks at the popes basically creating the schism, the Protestant Reformation, and then she looks at Vietnam and our involvement in that, which is rather stunning if you've never really looked into that. And the 3rd chapter, actually, before that, she looks at the American Revolution. And we'll talk about a couple of those, but Barbara Tuchman describes folly, and I put that up here because it's important, is the pursuit of policy that is counter to your self-interest when there are clear alternatives in front of you. And you can go into any realm of government and basically find folly. You could probably go into any realm of business and find folly. It's just not my forte. You know, I'm definitely leaning towards more of the governmental side here. And she sets aside a few conditions. There has to have been, like I said, clear alternatives or pathways that could have been taken by the government for it to be folly, and it also has to have been viewed in its time as something that was wrong, as something that was probably not an intelligent thing to be doing. So you can't, in hindsight, go back and say, "Oh yeah, that was folly." All right, and she goes over some examples. I didn't include a lot of the Vietnam stuff in this, but I found a quote from LBJ, which I thought was completely ironic, given that I was talking about this book. The guns and the bombs, the rockets and the warships are all symbols of human failure. And which is interesting because LBJ's conduct in the course of the Vietnam War was just, utter failure. So